And of course, the pulse is brought to you by Global Communities, the Guild of Affordable Safe Sanitation for All. We are live on DSTV channel 421, Go TV 125, and of course, all our social media handles. We are streaming live on YouTube, on X Spaces, on majoronline.com, of course, on Facebook. Now let's settle and deal with a matter that is likely to shake the very foundation of this country on Thursday. It's a huge race against time as government works around the clock to avert a strike by organized labor, which could potentially shut down the economy. The ministers for national security, lands and natural resources, interior, defense, environment, and information are locked up in an emergency meeting in a desperate attempt to find a way to convince organized labor to back down on Thursday's strike. Listen to Lands Minister Samuel Abujinapo giving me an update on this afternoon meeting, which is currently ongoing at the Ministry of Defense.
Felt that in the circumstances, this move was one which will not be detrimental to our efforts at regulating small scale mining. So essentially, that's what it is. The decision has been taken to revoke LI 2462. The fight against illegal mining has been ongoing under this government for the past 7 years. Excuse me, I would say that no government has fought this menace as much as Akufo-Addo's government has done. Indeed, we all know that illegal small-scale mining has been with us for many years. And when the president gave his inaugural address on 7th January 2017, a greater part of his speech focused on the issue of illegal small-scale mining. That definitely presupposes that illegal small-scale mining was a major problem at the time he took the oath of office on 7th January 2017. For about 6 months or so ago, we took the decision that we need to roll out a policy of river guards. In other words, we need to have a dedicated cohort of people, a dedicated personnel, group of people, personnel, who will patrol and monitor our river bodies 24/7. And so we began a collaboration with the Ghana Navy, where we procured 5 speedboats and began a very rigorous recruitment process or exercise, which resulted in the recruitment of some 300 young men and women. They were trained extensively in how to pilot these boats, in how to have body cams, and how to use drones, and so many other components of this policy have now been put together. And we are just on the verge of deploying these river guards. As I speak to you, a meeting is scheduled at the Ministry of Defense today at 12 o'clock to cross the T's and dot the I's in respect of this issue of river guard. And we think that the deployment of this river guard will really go a great length at helping us monitor the river bodies 24/7, as it were. And this has been work in progress. This is not something that has just come up. This is something that we sought approval from the central government some 6 or 8 months ago. I don't have the exact date with me now. But we've been working very hard at this and ensuring that we screen all the recruits, all the personnel who applied to join this river guard efforts. And they were taken through security training, screening. They were recruited, they were trained, we got the equipment, we put the policy and the operational manual, everything together. We are now meeting, as I say, to just smoothing the rough edges, and sooner rather than later, we will have them deployed on the major river bodies of our country, for them to police the river bodies, for them to monitor the river bodies, and for them to be able to communicate as quickly as they find any illegal mining activity taking place on the river bodies of our country. As you may have read from the newspapers as well, the periodic surgical operation by the Ghana Armed Forces under the rubric of Operation Halt is been evaluated again, it's been examined, and the decision has been taken that we're going to have surgical operations as we've done in the past. So the point I'm making is that, look, this government's commitment to the fight against illegal small-scale mining has been unfettered. And I think the government is been absolutely transparent, honest, and resolute when it comes to this fight. Look, let's be clear that there are challenges. There's no two ways about that because of the complexity of this matter and because of the common denominator when it comes to small-scale mining or when it comes to mining generally, which is really gold and money. And therefore, people will want to persist, and the cabals will want to outwit the system, and they want to persevere. But we are also absolutely resolute and determined, and we're not going to give up on this fight. We're going to get on with it. And as I say, these measures which we have worked on over the period are also going to be rolled out, and we believe that they will make a positive impact.
The Lands and Natural Resources Minister Samuel Abujina, for the meeting, he told us is still ongoing at the Ministry of Defense, and the ministers involved, their plan is to shape up a plan that will deal with illegal mining, especially with the deployment of river guards and the military to some of the mining areas. Now, we'll bring you updates when that meeting is done, and there's a formal communication from this particular meeting. Now, Labour is staging a protest against the wanton destruction of the environment and river bodies by illegal mining following government failure to meet their demands. Here is the Secretary General of the Trade Union Congress, Joshua Ansah, announcing the decision at a news conference yesterday.
The government meeting with organized labor's response. We have concluded as follows. Our strike remains unchanged. I want to repeat, the strike notice remains unchanged. We are of the view that what the government has proposed to do does not adequately address our demands. And therefore, our notice of strike notice remains unchanged. Thank you.
So this is Labour's position, that's organized Labour's position. And this was yesterday after they held a meeting to deliberate on the government response they had when they selected some of them to meet government. Now, last night, a few hours after the announcement of a strike on Thursday, the Ministry of Information issued a statement responding to the position taken by organized labor. And I'll bring that to you on the screens now. And this is what the statement essentially said. They reference an earlier meeting at the Jubilee House chaired by the President, Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, where organized labor was present. And this was on Thursday, October 3, 2024. Now, the meeting, according to the Information Minister, discussed a long-standing issue of illegal mining, reviewed the situation and government's efforts so far, and it was agreed between the two parties, as government and organized labor. They came to this conclusion: one, that government will collaborate with organized labor and other stakeholders in the fight against illegal mining. Government will take steps when Parliament reconvenes, and we are told that Parliament will be back on the 15th of October, that's exactly today's week, to revoke the Environmental Protection Mining in Forest Reserves Regulation 2023 LI 2462. Now, government again will ramp up its enforcement measures, particularly as it relates to prohibiting illegal mining in water bodies and forest reserves. Now, water bodies and forest reserves remain red zones for mining, and all forms of mining in water bodies, as well as reconnaissance, prospecting, exploration, and or small-scale mining in forest reserve remain banned. Law enforcement agencies of the state are fully mandated to raid our water bodies and forest reserves of all forms of mining. The statement goes on to say that the ministry, therefore, the Attorney General again is collaborating with the Chief Justice to ensure swift adjudication of illegal mining. We are told that over 800 cases are before various courts, and government will support the call for all presidential candidates to sign a pact committing to the fight against illegal mining so as to depoliticize this national challenge. Now, in the light of the above, government is surprised by the decision of organized labor to proceed on an industrial action from the 10th of October 2024. Government will, however, continue to engage organized labor and other stakeholders in a constructive dialogue in finding solution for this national menace. Government reiterates its commitment to the fight against illegal mining and calls on all stakeholders to join the fight. This statement is signed by the Minister for Information, Fatima Abubakar. Now, already, the strike is gathering pace, where the GPRTU and other civil society organizations in their sustainable development goals showing their full support behind organized labor. Both have been speaking at their respective news conference in Accra. Take a listen.
A member of the organized labor. As such, whatever decision organized labor takes, we are bound to be part of it, or we are fully part of it. Under normal circumstances, you need not to wait till you are dead before you talk about something to protect yourself. We've seen this Galamsey issue has been in existence for decades. It wasn't initially practiced the way it is today. Today, all our water bodies are being poisoned with the chemicals those Galamseyers used to extract the minerals that they are looking for. All the forest reserves, which is, of course, you know, the forest, the trees, etc., will also prolong our livelihood. And all are also being destroyed. So, yesterday I even granted an interview to someone who was asking, after all, the Galamsey issue is not in Accra. And I have to ask him that, excuse me, my brother, do we have to die before we fight for things which, if are not done, we are going to survive? The answer is no. Although the Galamsey is not in Accra, but the water runs several thousands of miles, several thousand kilometers from its original source before entering into the sea. So we don't have to wait till it gets to, even who says we haven't started taking the poisonous water that is being announced generally to all of us. So we are part of it. Those in authority, we are still pleading with them. They should do whatever they could to make sure this Galamsey should be a thing of the past. We are fighting to protect human lives. That is all that organized labor is trying to protect. We are not into politics. We are not supporting one group against the other. So it will be very, very backward for someone to say he or she is going to ignore the orders of organized labor and do otherwise. I don't think any normal, matured person will come out with such a word, apart from the person being politically motivated. Those in authority should have a second look at the issue before on the 9th, because after on the 9th, the 10th, we are all going to hold the whole nation to ransom, which we don't think is going to be the best. You see, so we are pleading with those in authority to do the best that they could to salvage all of us from this issue.
Okay. I want to say lastly that a couple of months to years ago, you brought the nation to its knees when you organized.
Oh, that was in 2021. On the 6th December, yes. It was just about 30 minutes. And we never brought the whole nation to. Oh, that was a sample of that was a sample of what we can do.
So what are we to expect on the 10th of December?
I'm still pleading and praying that those in authority should not. You see, my brother, I don't know, but some of us, we saw so many group of governments before today. And if those in authority allow us to exhibit the strength we have, they will be surprised. The little thing, we would like to exhibit the strength again. So they shouldn't dare. At least they should do whatever possible to make sure they salvage all of us from the situation in which we are. But if they made mistake and we are able to hold the whole nation to ransom, it could be continuous. They should expect continuous of those things to happen. So I'm still pleading and praying that those in authority should make sure they do what they could or what they can to make sure we don't see the coming on the 10th of this month.
Right, so that's a position taken by the GPRTU, and we'll hear from them shortly. The civil society organization will also join me in the studio shortly for a conversation. The strike is scheduled for Thursday, but we are getting indication about the preparedness of some members of organized labor to join the nationwide action. My colleague, Emmanuel Bright-Kweko, has been monitoring events at the KNUST and Amistad campus where local leadership have opened an online portal for voting process to begin. Let me bring in Emmanuel Bright-Kweko. So, Bright, is voting over, especially at the KNUST campus?
Well, Elton, for the KNUST campus, the voting exercise is still ongoing at that place because they had a meeting just this afternoon. It was in the morning, somewhere around 10 a.m. The leadership met and they decided that they were going to vote on an online platform. So they opened the portal for their members to vote over there. And there are about some 800 members of the UTAG on KNUST campus that are expected to actually vote in this particular exercise at the KNUST campus. And so for them, the voting exercise hasn't really ended, but from tomorrow, that's when we will know the outcome of that particular exercise. But when you go to the Akenteng Apiaminka University of Skills Training and Entrepreneurial Development, that's Amstead, the voting exercise has ended. They have two campuses, one at Kumasi and the other is at Mampong. So for the Kumasi campus, they are done with the voting exercise. I'm told they were done yesterday. So there were about 26 members of them, and 23 out of this number voted for the strike to happen, and the remaining voted no. But when you go to the Mampong campus, the news I'm just learning is that their exercise is still ongoing because they chose to use an online platform to do the voting exercise. So by 4 p.m. today, they will close polls and then the outcome will be given. They also tell me that some 40 members over there are expected to vote in this particular exercise, Elton.
So we are just like some 39 minutes away, but tell me the mood on campus, especially among members of UTAG.
So for Amstead, because the majority of them voted for the strike to happen, the talks in town is that the damages from this illegal mining menace is so huge, and so it would require that they protest against the government's inaction or proactiveness in fighting this particular menace. And so when you go to the Amstead campus, that is what is generally there. Most of them are so much in support of this particular action by the organized labor. For the KNUST, the mood over there is not so different from that of the Amstead, but because they haven't voted, you cannot really ascertain whether all of them are in support of this particular strike action. But generally, the talk in town is that this is necessary for actions to be made by the government in fighting the illegal mining menace that has since ravaged our water bodies, the lands, and other natural resources in the country, Elton.
All right, thank you so much. Emmanuel Bright-Kweko, he is our correspondent in the Ashanti when he works with Love FM, and we'll touch base with him again when voting is over on the KNUST campus. But again, let's explore the security angle of this Galamsey conversation. And security analyst Ishmael Norman joins me via Zoom. Mr. Norman, it's a pleasure to have you here on the pause. Good afternoon. And if you can kindly unmute for me. All right, we'll try and see if that technical hitch can be rectified so we can have a conversation. I still cannot hear you, Mr. Norman. Right, so we'll get that rectified and then we can have a conversation with Mr. Ishmael Norman. But in the studio this afternoon, I have Jonathan Goka, coordinator, CASA Initiative Ghana, convener of SDG 13 platform. Jonathan, you're welcome. Also is Chei Kwajo Yamwa, Executive Director, Help Foundation Africa. Mr. Yamwa, good afternoon. Welcome.
Good afternoon.
So tell me your position as we wait to rectify the technical issue with Mr. Norman. What position are you canvassing?
Yes, for us, we totally support the position by the organized labor We believe that this is a very serious issue and is a life-threatening issue because water is life, and anything that affects our drinking source is an important issue. We are also and have called and have led the discussion to ensure that we appreciate the devastating effect of the illegal mining on the forest reserves, especially the opportunity given by the LI 2462 for widespread damage of our forest resources.
Let me see if I can get Mr. Ishmael Norman's attention. Mr. Norman, good afternoon. I hope now I can hear you.
Elton, yeah, it's Dr. Ishmael Norman, Elton.
Great, Dr. Ishmael Norman, good afternoon.
Don't reduce my rank.
I apologize sincerely for that. But you're welcome.
I will correct you, don't worry.
Of course. So what exactly are we dealing with in terms of the security implications of this illegal mining issue?
Well, I think there are a lot of security implications. Human security is involved, and state security is also involved. I think every patriotic citizen should join organized labor to be part of this demonstration on the 10th. Because when you look at it from the point of view of human security, our water bodies are compromised. We have the right, the freedom from theft. And yet, the majority of people of Ghana, very soon, they may be confronted with the issue of...
Yes, hello, sir. Yes, Dr. Norman's phone, again, disconnected for now. We'll reconnect with him. But still in the studio, Mr. Yamwayan, of course. Yes, so Mr. Norman, please continue. Dr. Norman, continue for me.
Yeah, there are a number of people in this country where if we don't cure this particular challenge, which government has totally be irresponsible, and for that reason, organized labor must act. There are people who may not be able to afford even basic cup of water to drink. So I think if we continue and most of the water sources get polluted and become turbid, filled with mud, I think it will be too late to wait for government to import water for us to drink. First of all, they will only supply their party members, and they won't be generous like nature has been. So I think we have to go after it with gusto. Every patriotic citizen must do this. Dr. Sapon, Obin Sapon, is saying that it is subterfuge by some political party, doesn't really think about Ghanaians. He's only thinking about his political party because maybe he's the one who's been bribed. Otherwise, he would not be talking like that when the evidence is in front of you that the water bodies are all turbid and that we can't treat our water properly. How does he know that the water he's drinking is not even polluted? You know, I mean, this kind of conversation, from the human security point of view, this government has been totally irresponsible when it comes to one of the essential ingredients of life, water. Then it goes into food, because the same water affects the supply of food, the producing of food. And we don't know how many of our produce are contaminated with all kinds of organic compounds. And so inorganic compounds, volatile organic compounds that can actually poison people, lead to all kinds of diseases. Children being born with one eye in the middle. I mean, that is grotesque. For it to happen in this day and age, I think organized labor should not yield. It is good that the ministers are meeting because that is about state security. They are meeting to protect the state. Their meeting will not protect you, Mr. Brobe, and I. Their meeting is to protect the state. After all, Act 1030 of 2020 says that joint security meeting is part of the protocol of the security architecture. Right. I don't see anything special about it. You wait till this late to have this kind of meeting about one of the most important natural resources of Ghana is, for example, for me, it's a fact.
But doctor, the minister makes the point that the fight against Galamsey is not an event; it's a process, and they've been on it since 2017. And in fact, if you should go to President Akufo-Addo's inaugural address, a large part of it was dedicated to the issue of Galamsey. So we've been aware, and they've rolled out a number of interventions, and they say that they are on top of it. Now, even before we wait for the outcome of this meeting, currently ongoing, we understand the government's mind as far as this matter is concerned. One is the fact that they will be deploying what they call river guards, together with the military, to patrol river bodies to ensure that they rid such areas of illegal mining. There's also the pledge to put before Parliament an amendment to LI 2462 to repeal the part that says that mining is allowed in forest reserves. These are government interventions going forward. What is your take on this?
Elton, you wait all this while. Do you think the Galamseyers are afraid of drones or cameras or eyewitnesses? They are not. It will have no effect. Whatever army that they are deployed will have no effect. Now, the military and the police combine patrol. Unless you give them the shoot to kill order, they will do nothing to stop them.
Will you suggest such an approach? Will you go for such an approach, shoot to kill?
Otherwise, why would I propose it? It's not the first time I'm proposing it. If you don't take very drastic action, the Galamseyers are not afraid of anyone. And as Franklin Kujo said, Akufo-Addo will do FOCO. They will stop nothing. It will continue. So for me, one of the ways that we can go after this is for organized labor to really speak for the majority of Ghanaians that we have had enough. Enough is enough. We can't take this anymore. And that the government, you cannot wait till last minute. 8 weeks to election, that's when you are taking these actions. What happened? If you've actually been doing it since 2017, it is only a fool that will do the same thing over and over again and expect different outcomes.
If the interventions...
What different outcome are we going to get?
Yeah. I was asking, Doctor, if the intervention will not achieve much, do you think strike by organized labor will achieve what we are all asking for?
The strike will bring the message home to the government that unless you really go a step further than what you've been doing in the past, we will continue to strike. Sometimes chaos is good. Believe me or not, sometimes chaos is good in order to rationalize proper critical thinking about issues that confront a nation.
Why do you think, Doctor, for example, government is reluctant to introduce the word declaration of state of emergency around our river bodies into the conversation?
I think President Akufo-Addo will be the right person to ask, but knowing him and monitoring what he's been doing since 2017, January 7th, he is one person who doesn't like to be controlled by Parliament. And because of fear of control by Parliament, he will try to find a way to come up with his own measures, just as he did with COVID-19. He used the Public Health Act 851 and his own executive orders to actually handle the COVID menace. He feels like he wants to do the same thing. But then he has to then go to an act that will give full faith and credit to whatever he wants to do, instead of just simply going to Article 31 of the 1992 Constitution. He won't do it because he will have to be accountable to Parliament. And people who call themselves Nana, they don't like to be controlled by subjects like me, don't conform like me, like people, some of them in Parliament. They are not Nanas like him. So he will not like Parliament to control him. He will never declare a state of emergency, just as he didn't declare in the water spillage by DRA, and he didn't declare even a regional state of emergency. He will never do it.
My final question before I let you go, I mean, so it is your suggestion that as a nation, we should be prepared to live with the implications of a nationwide strike by organized labor for the greater good?
I think for the first time in the history of this country, it will teach us a lesson. It will teach the politicians a lesson to be transparent, accountable, and responsible to the people. We, the people that give them the power.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Ishmael Norman is a security analyst. And of course, this conversation about illegal mining won't go away anytime soon. And of course, I told you earlier about some of the stories that we are following. I will take you to the court shortly. Remember that the organized labor declared this, action, reaffirmed the action yesterday, but it is up to the bodies under organized labor, NAT, TEU, NAGRAT, the rest, to have also conversation with their members to either reject or approve the decision taken by organized labor. And already UTAG, that's the University Teachers Association, they are holding voting across all public universities campus to get the input of their members. So far, the University for Development Service, they voted overwhelmingly for a strike. The University for Cape Coast did the same. KNUST is voting. Other universities are also voting. Now, this afternoon, we got the information that NAT, that's the biggest union and organized labor, they are holding a meeting with their members to get an understanding of where they should place their allegiance, whether to go for a strike or not to. And that result is yet to come in. But the Ghana Medical Association, another key organ of organized labor, and because of the role they play in our society, they concluded some kind of a meeting, and there's a statement to that effect. Now, the Ghana Medical Association has not declared roadmap for an industrial action. Therefore, they are asking all their members to continue providing food service without interruption. The GMA, however, is in solidarity with organized labor in the fight against Galamsey. The National Executive Council will give further information when necessary. And this is signed by Dr. Frank Sribo, President of the Ghana Medical Association. I will bring you what he actually told the media very shortly. He makes the point that this matter, to go for a strike or not to participate in the strike, was put for the 20-member council of the Ghana Medical Association. Now, 14 voted for a strike, 1 abstained, and then 5 voted for a strike, 1 abstained, and 14 voted against a strike. And that's the reason why the Ghana Medical Association will not participate in this strike. And we'll have that insert for you pretty shortly. But let me come back to the studio. And of course, Mr. Che and Jonathan, they are still here with me. So let me bring in Jonathan. So the SDGs, it is also a concern for you. And to what extent is this Galamsey issue impacting on our ability to achieve the targets set under the SDGs?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. And I believe we all know the 17 SDGs and what they are supposed to achieve in our development process. So if you take from goal 1 up to goal 17, you can clearly see the effect of Galamsey on achieving each of these objectives under the SDGs. So that is why we came together as non-state actors or civil society organizations who are very keen on Ghana achieving its SDGs. So if you take the SDGs that is concerned with water, SDG 6, already all the water bodies have been polluted. So how do we achieve that universal access to water? That is our concern. If the sources of our water, which is the forest reserves, are being depleted, and the water bodies in the rivers are also being polluted, and they are even drying up, we are talking about issues of climate change and its impact on the water bodies already. And we are aggravating this situation with Galamsey. Then you know where we are heading towards achieving our. And
the interesting thing about water, and we'll have that report shortly for our viewers, the fact that for those who've taken Jesus Christ as their Lord and personal Savior, the SDHs that they cannot baptize them in the water because the water is gone so bad. And we'll have that report for our viewers shortly. So you were telling me about how this will make it difficult for us to achieve the target set under. And then President Akufo-Addo is a key player in the SDGs.
Exactly so. So that is our call, that if the level of distraction and pollution that we are seeing at this moment, we are not even mentioning the issue of air pollution. these chemicals that are released into the atmosphere, only God knows what we are inhaling. And so if this is not a crisis, I don't know what will really compel our president to really call for a state of emergency in areas that are clearly no-go areas, as the Minister for Lands already alluded to. So our call is that let's halt these activities, call for some serenity in these areas to really identify who are causing these illegalities, to remove them from the system. So we as SDGs platform, or CSOs SDGs platform, fully support organized labor in their quest and demand that they've put before the president. And I think the most important one is the call for a state of emergency to hold all activities in the water bodies, in the forest reserves. Because if we don't, as we speak, Minerals Commission is still granting licenses.
And they've not violated any law, because the law gives them the power to do so.
So we are even calling for all those licenses that are promoting mining in the forest reserve to be halted. You know, so though it is not bad for them to grant licenses, but the number of licenses being generated every day, the airline that is empowering that, we are calling for that airline to be revoked. And the president has all the powers to call Parliament to work on this airline. But waiting for Parliament to sit before the request is immediate. It is not about any more time, because we are dying gradually. We are digging our own graves as a nation. And if the politician is only thinking about votes, when we are counting loss of lives, they are counting votes. That is what we need to understand as media organizations. That if the politician is speaking to the issue of Galamsey, it's clearly about votes. Right. It is not about the predicament the communities are going through.
Let me bring in Mr. Che, but just by way of information, the University of Ghana branch of UTAC, they've just concluded their voting. 80% of them voted for a strike, and less than 20 voted against, meaning UTAC, University of Ghana, are fully in support of the strike action that will start on Thursday. But Mr. Che, so government has announced certain plans. The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, we had him on early on. River gas, military, revocation. But if we want to put into context the demands of organized labor, you would say that government, 3 of them actually, you would say that government has almost met 2 of them. Shouldn't government be given some space to brief?
I think that the issues are very simple, and the issues are known to government all these whiles. We have seen reports from government agencies, and have spoken to people from the Ghana Water Company and others. They've shared their reports severally. Forestry Commission had, at a point in time, led advocacy against Galamsey. So that is very important. But what it is that, as we speak now, there are still illegal activities, illegal mining taking place on water bodies in forest areas as we speak now. So we have our people, civil society organizations, community-based organizations, giving us videos, giving us feedback. Even today we have samples of water brought to us, and the issues are not reflective on the ground. We heard one minister yesterday saying that somewhere behind a police station there's illegal mining going on.
Because the chief executive of the
Minerals Commission told them, and then still they are doing it, so he wonders why the police are not gone out.
The police says it's 800 meters away from the police station.
So 800 meters away from the police station, we cannot arrest them, but we can come up and arrest those protesting and then deny them bail. We think that the actions that government needs to take must be urgent and must be now. You asked about the issue of how it affects the SDG. See, SDG 1 is about poverty. And the Galamsey is denying farmers land. Communities are impoverished. It's only the few who are engaged in the Galamsey that are getting money. The rest of them. Now, SDG 2 is talking about food, hunger. Now our farmlands are gone. The water that we're using, a lot of them are diverted away. Food is becoming a problem. Now farmers in most areas cannot go to farm. So food prices is coming up. Very, very important. SDG 3 is about health and well-being. We have seen the documentaries, the information from the Ghana Medical Association showing how it impacts our health, children and others. SDG 4 is talking about education. Education, go to those areas. You see young children, youth, they are all involved. They are not going to the schools. The schools are virtually empty. Let me come to SDG 8. Right. Let's talk about decent work and child labor. Go there and see child labor being used there. Even the miners themselves are exposed to hazardous work, and we see miners dying every day. They are exposed to fumes from mercury and others. So that is it. Let me even come to SDG 13, which is talking about climate action. Our forests and water bodies and others that sequester this carbon, we are cutting them off and reducing the carbon sequestration potential of these areas. And we are planting trees rather in the cities where the forests are where the trees must be. So misplaced.
It was a nationwide
now,
planting.
SDG 14, talk about life underwater. Without quality water, there is no life underwater. The water bodies and fresh waters are so polluted that now fishers cannot even fish there. Now we see the volumes of pollution moving from the pra, the Ankobra, into the ocean space, disturbing the estuarine areas, which are proper breeding grounds for fish. Is an important issue. Let's come to SDG 15 about land, life on land. And it's talk about biodiversity loss and talk about forest conservation. SDG 15 is fully affected by all these Galamsey activities. SDG, let's even talk about 16, about peace and justice. Polluting water sources, drinking water sources is purely an injustice against our communities, against us, because the heavy metals, we cannot remove them from the treatment processes that we use in Ghana. So it is coming to us. Where is it? We are not benefiting from the Galamsey, and we are being impacted by the negative externalities of the Galamsey. What injustice could this be? So all the SDGs are affected. And our president, once being the eminent co-chair of the Sustainable Development Goals, we want him to appreciate that look at all these SDGs and this Galamsey issue alone affecting all of us. So it's an important issue, and for us in civil society, we have started our red band sort of voicing out the issues, because it is about life and death. It's life-threatening because water is life, and when you touch water, you are touching the lives of the people who depend on the water. So that is our key message. We support fully the strike action and then the demands by the organized labor, and we believe that the message must be sounded loud and clear, and in voices that would be understood by those in power. And strike is one of the voices and the actions that will be understood.
Jonathan, the concern for many is that it looks like the issue against government is like government hasn't done anything at all. And government will point to Galamsey, Operation Halt, Operation Vanguard. So government has demonstrated the will to fight this. The attitude of the Ghanaian cannot also be taken out of the equation.
So, thanks for this question. You realize government has been doing this over the years.
Yes.
But what is the end result? Because all these Galamsey, Vanguard, whatever, what is the end result? We are seeing worse situations than when they were not even there. So it means that we need to change strategy, change course.
What do you suggest?
I would suggest, number one, let's halt everything, get a full military support to evacuate people from those sensitive areas. So number one, let's allow the rivers to breathe again. Because if it's still happening...
Evacuation was resettle those who are living in those areas.
In fact, I don't want to use the word shoot and kill. For me, that would have been one of the things that would deter people from going into the water bodies.
But the danger of innocent people getting caught up in that situation cannot also be taken out. And there's also the reason why we have our cause to deal with. Because any criminal is presumed innocent until proven guilty.
Yes, I understand vulnerable people who may find themselves in such situations and get killed. But that is not what I'm proposing, directly shoot and kill. But I believe the military and the security agencies have, more strategic ways of doing this without getting innocent people into the picture. But let's look at the strategies that have been employed and how the process was compromised by the same political elites who are behind some of the illegalities going on. And the reports of the security agencies getting compromised along the way.
Right.
All this, caused the failure of the strategy.
So everybody is compromised, especially as far as this fight is. Everybody is compromised. Who can we trust to deliver?
Yeah, so that is why the call for organized labor, for us to get it once and for all. And let's be serious about this. The consultation should be widened, all relevant stakeholders brought on board, the chiefs who are in the communities brought on board, and put them in charge or fighting illegalities within their landscapes. There is a framework that was developed by which was supported by the European Union, the World Bank, some time ago in 2008, which is called the NREC framework, which was about natural resource and environment governance arrangement. And this was hosted by the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Lands, and Ministry of Environment. All these frameworks were there. I'm sure if we had, stuck to that framework, and we wouldn't be here where we are now. So lack of that political commitment and will to really deploy all the arsenals at the disposal of the president to halt this needs to be brought on board to bring this situation to a successful end.
But strike and the implications of that strike that we are all looking forward to on Thursday, the almost shutdown of government machinery and possibly the economy. Are we not trying to solve a problem and then we end up creating even more bigger issues?
So let me say, the equation is between life and economy. Which one will you choose? Already people are dying. Already we have seen the devastating effect of Galamsey on us and communities. Do we die or do we think about economy? Of course, when people die, how do you maintain the economy? Because the workforce, you need to promote productivity. And if diseases and ailments through the exposure of some of these harmful chemicals affect all of us, how do we stay? Have we noticed some of these diseases that is rampant, kidney diseases and others? And they are directly linked to some of the exposures, including exposures to mercury and some of the other heavy metals, including the arsenic, the cadmium, and then the other metals, and even cyanide and others. And these are very important things for us to be looking at. So do we want to do things to maintain the productivity, the health of the working force, or we want to look for money? So the issue about money and health is a whole topic that must be looked at. But the equation is an imbalanced equation. Health first before livelihood. But one of the most important things, as we have said, is that the rivers have assimilative capacity. The continuous agitation and mining within the river, which we call the continuous perturbation, is causing these suspended particles and rising and the high level of turbidity. And we need to stop that activity to ensure that the natural assimilative capacity of the rivers can be engaged. They need time to heal themselves. And that is very important. That is why we are calling for it now. You see, strangely, we have been on the field and we have noticed that it is more productive for the Galamseyers to be on the rivers because already the water is there, it's already washed, you don't need any excavators, that is expensive, and that is there. And we have seen some community mining schemes already diverting rivers and others. And we know that most of these community mining schemes are heavily emboldened because of the political affiliations on the field. And that is one of the things that is making it very, very difficult for the government to take action because they are thinking about election, because a lot of the party functionaries and foot soldiers are heavily involved and funding the local operational campaigning.
Let me ask
that is not the way we should look at it.
Let me ask this question, and I mean the chief executive of the Minerals Commission is always trying to make the point that a complete ban may be unfair to those who are doing underground mining. I mean, it makes reference to a mining concession somewhere in Tinka, where there is no river body that the person is using to wash the gold, if you like. And so to institute a complete ban, that will affect that person. And that person employs over 5,000 individuals. And so it will be unfair to that person. But you can also be discriminatory in the application of the law. So in this circumstance where somebody is not harming the environment in any way, do we put all of them under one basket and say that all of you go and sit home?
Let me say something. For me, my background is even minerals and extractive engineering.
Okay.
There is no mining that does not harm the environment. We call it the trade-off. There is no mining whatsoever. So far as you are removing the vegetation, you are removing the overburden and chasing after the ore, there is a level of harm and negative externality. But the point is that we have seen even engage some small-scale miners who are not even secured in their concession because nobody is coming there to give you security. So if illegal miners encroach on your concession, there is no security whatsoever. Yes. Now, monitoring has been all-time lowest and poor. So those who have even legal licenses, we are not sure what they are doing in their concession. But also, having a license alone does not warrant that you are legal. You have to be on the concession, and if you are moved off, you are operating in another illegal area. And who is down there to check all these things? So that is why you need a complete moratorium. Then you go out to assess. We have also known legal miners whose licenses have expired, but they are still on the field. When you go there, they show you the licenses. Sometimes they show you the licenses, and you're not even able to assess where is the exact location they are supposed to mine. We know some who are doing the right thing, but we know others who are not. And there are some who are even challenged. Majority. Yes, some who are even challenged there because you have problems dealing with other miners who are coming into your concession. So when you put a whole stop, a whole moratorium, one, when you are now doing the re-entry, it will be good to ensure that the legal ones are on their concession. Right. You go there to check that their operations are also legal. Then you ensure that any encroachers are put away. Then you also ensure that any illegalities taking place anywhere, you address that. Now, as we speak, it's difficult for mines inspectors to go out there. It's difficult for environmental protection agency officers to go out there. It's difficult. We have even seen. It's difficult. Why? We have even seen Forestry Commission guards being arrested by illegal miners. It was there. It's difficult because their lives are in danger. It is difficult because the protection, the security is not there. And how can we work, or our people work in such situation where the security is not there? How can they go out there in the forest and have issues? And these illegal miners are heavily armed. So we have also seen another school of thought that why wouldn't demonstrators or protesters go to the communities and go and fight? That is not their job. Protesters are not armed. Even armed officers are having problems. Didn't we see police officers kneeling down in the forest begging illegal miners when they took their guns? These videos are all there. And you're asking protesters. That is why people are paid. Let me just, it's a question that is going for the two of you. I mean, remember that last year or some 2 years ago, I mean, what we were asking for, we've been on that road before. And the Minerals Commission even said that at the time that there was a ban imposed on small-scale mining, it was that time that we had, production was at all-time high from the very, sector that we had put a ban on. So to travel on that same road without any tangible strategy in place, then clearly we will come back next year to talk about this same matter. I'll let you answer that, but let me allow Jonathan first, and then I'll let Che come in as we conclude on the conversation.
So in my earlier submission, I talk about how some of the government agencies or officials within ministries and agencies who are supposed to be, playing this monitoring and regulatory role, how they are even compromised. So that will not lead us to any successful end. So we are talking here about sincere commitment and people who are really committed to this fight. And 2 years ago, I'm sure that was the same, motivation that got the government to say that let us impose a ban on this sector whilst we clean it up. And it led to the birth of community mining, training of small-scale miners at the University of Mines. And then we are back to a situation which is even worse than what we sought to protect. So, number one, as I said, sincere commitment and getting people who really mean to do the right things to be put at the forefront to lead. For example, look at Professor Frimpong Boateng and the report that he brought out. Look at how we treated that report. Did we really look at the substance generated in that report for us to draw a roadmap to fight Galamsey? And look at the way government dismissed that report. That shows you that people who are supposed to be in leadership positions to take this fight head on are only whitewashing the solutions. We are not, a country with sincere people or leadership especially. Because we have evidence of some of the political elite involved in this process. I'm not saying it for the first time.
No doubt about that.
No doubt about that. So if such people are still in place, we can't really win this fight. If the conversation and the consultations are not brought in to bring on board other, let me say, people who are not connected to any political party to really be part of this fight, we won't get to nowhere. So it's about our conscience as leaders of this country if we want to leave something for the future generation. Otherwise, strategy, we are not winning the fight. Why is the community miners or whoever is involved in Galamsey always winning the fight? They are always one step ahead of the strategies that we are putting. It means that there are insiders who are feeding these criminals with information as to how to outwit the law enforcement agencies.
Mr. Che.
Yes. We have said, and I followed keenly the previous engagement, 2017 and others, and for us it was poorly done. We saw security officers who were themselves engaged in the operations. We saw some areas where communities even had to stand up and say, why are you giving protection for these people to be in the forest mining whilst you place a ban? So the ban was never effective. So let's not stop
it's the
making
same
reference.
ban we are asking for today.
Yes, because that ban was not effective.
I'm saying it's the same thing we are asking for
and
today.
Yes, so we want an effective ban. Very important.
And who is
an effective ban?
The same people we're going to use.
Yes.
They haven't repented. Some of them are still in their same trade. They are going to exploit the situation for their own benefit. They are not angels. They are still the Ghanaian police and military and other forestry commission officers that we are going to deploy.
Yes. The point is that it's all about the supervision. Who is supervising them? Yeah. So that is why we're calling and supporting organized labor in a loud voice on this industrial strike action to send home a clear message that leadership is to solve a problem. So you need to solve this problem of Galamsey. And we are aware and we know that reports were trickling in to security agencies and to the government, and they knew exactly what was happening during those bans. And how can we have one of the periods of a ban and have a lot of gold accrued in that year?
And exported illegally.
And exported in that year. That should tell you that the mining was still ongoing in these areas. And we know. So that ban was never effective. So let's stop making that references. Unfortunately, there have been a lot of documents by government and government agencies detailing what went wrong and what could be done right. And you use it for your advantage and you solve the issue. You don't wait for the issue to be like this. Now it's free for all and everybody is doing what they like. I drive around most of these areas on the pra. I just saw people openly mining in the water, and Cobra and others. Free for all. When you are driving by the road, you hear and you see within the buffer zones and others, they are there. So the audacity with which they are going around is telling us, the ordinary citizens who are experiencing the negative externalities of this illegal mining, that we don't matter.
Okay. We are wrapping up. Final words, first Jonathan and then Mr. Che.
All right. So I think the call for a state of emergency on our river bodies and in the forest reserve, I think we still stand by that and in full support of the demand by organized labor. The questions you asked, that this same strategy of ban was employed in the past and we never achieved any result. But the question to you is, so should we sit now and allow the illegality to continue? How long do we have to live on our own soil before we pass away? As we indicated, all the 17 SDGs are being affected just by this single activity. So we can't sit down. It's time for the whole society to rise up and call leadership to be sincere in its approach to fighting Galamsey.
Mr. Che,
yes.
Final ways.
So we want everybody to be part. I have said it and I've showed my water bottled, and I've said that, look, the treatment processes cannot take off the heavy metals. And when mercury and others get into the system, it affects almost every part of your body. As a journalist, as anybody in Ghana, you are not safe. When the mercury fumes go up and forms part of the rain, and through precipitation it rains, it falls everywhere. So the pollution is everywhere. Our water we are drinking is not safe. So any way you can support us, ensure that our voices are clear. We demand for our health, we demand for our future, and we demand for our generation, and the next generation is very important. Because very soon, our children will be asking us, uncle, brother, dad, mother, mom, what did you do? This is the time now for us to do what we need to do to secure the future of ourselves and our children.
Thank you so much for coming through from the civil society organizations platform, and they are also against illegal mining and fully in support of the decision taken by organized labor. Mr. Che and Mr. Jonathan, thank you so much for coming through. Now let's talk about something also significant. You know, when you give your life to Jesus Christ as your Lord and personal Savior, you have to be baptized. And baptism means being immersed in the water. That is what baptism is all about. Now, there's a difficulty here. The leadership of the Seventh-day Adventist Church is worried over the increasing negative effects of illegal mining, which they say is affecting the soul-winning effort of the church. Executive Secretary of the Northern Ghana Union of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, Pastor Edward Nyakon, said the church can no longer baptize new converts in areas affected by illegal mining because of the increasing turbidity levels in the water bodies across the country. Ohamin Teria was there for Joy News, and this is his report.
The Northern Ghana Union of the Seventh-day Adventist Church has 2,251 congregations in the northern sector of Ghana, with a total membership of 218,000 as of the end of July 2024. For years, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, which believed in the biblical baptism of immersion, has been conducting baptisms of new converts in rivers and streams. But the church is being compelled to construct baptistries in place of conducting baptisms in streams and rivers. That is according to the Executive Secretary of the Northern Ghana Union of the Church, Pastor Edward Nyakon.
Galamsey has come to destroy all the water bodies. So it's also affecting our baptism because previously we were baptizing in rivers, but nowadays all the water bodies are contaminated. Therefore, that has resulted for this church to build this baptistry so that all those who will be baptized and the pastors who will be officiating will not be contaminated.
Pastor Nyakon spoke at the sidelines of the 40th anniversary climax of the Boshan Kropo branch of the Seventh-day Adventist Church under the theme Blessings Beyond Measure. President of the Mid-Central Ghana Conference, Pastor Daniel Che Bafo Jr. is asking pastors of the church to strongly speak against illegal mining. He is also entreating members of the church involved in Galamsey to quit from the illegal trade.
Enough is enough simply because when we look at the dreadful nature of our environment today and the effect that Galamsey brings upon us, I don't think we should sit as a people and continue to condone this kind of menace. You see, we talk against armed robbery. We talk against other social vices. But I dare say Galamsey tops them all. Within my jurisdiction, I am urging and entreating all my pastors that they should speak against Galamsey. They should act against Galamsey within their purview, within their power. When they see something with regards to Galamsey, they should say something.
Meanwhile, the national leadership of the Seventh-day Adventist Church is yet to issue an official communique on illegal mining. From Kumasi, for Joy News, Ohimin Teria reporting.
This is a pause here on Joy News. We'll take a short break. When we return, I will take you to the court where those who were arrested for the protests 2 weeks ago where, they were taken to court. We'll also talk about the LGBTQ protest today when we return. This is the pause.